All right. I think we're live now. Let me know if you could hear me. It's Doug Cunnington here, and we're doing, I guess technically it's sort of the Doug Show live right now. And you'll notice in a festive way, I've pulled down some of the lights in the background to drape them over the guitars. May as well show them off a little bit. And I think we have a few people in. Again, let me know if you can hear me. It's always good to confirm and double check that. We always have some great, great comments out there. All right, I think you can hear me. Very good. But I will monitor the chat. Great comments already. John got in a little bit early, had several questions, which we'll get into some of it. We'll get into some of it. So John, what's going on? You mentioned you enjoy the beer drinking on the job and deep dive keyword research, which incidentally, we're not doing the keyword research stuff today. I usually only do that occasionally, and there's several other live streams that I've done, so you can always watch those again. Gaz is bringing the support. What time is it there? So, I mean, it's like 8 hours ahead, so it's like 11 something over there. And then Bruce, Bruce is bold. He says, the bald head and pointy ear look, isn't that flattering, bro? Gotta say. And I welcome all feedback, especially about my looks. Love that. So if anyone else has suggestions, let me know. And in fact, Bruce, what do you like when you look at a man? Or what's your preference? Do you like longer hair, facial hair? Do you like what kind of ears do you like? I think it could have just been the image. My ears actually aren't that pointy. My head's fairly symmetric too. Usually don't get complaints, get a lot of compliments actually, so it's good to hear the opposition. But yeah, let us know what you like, Bruce. Masher says it's late and you're gonna catch the replay, which I always appreciate, and I think most people watch the replay. I think this time of day is actually kind of it's not good for anyone except for me, which is why we do it at this time of day. And okay, I am not drinking any beer today. I am just drinking water, no coffee. So it's late enough in the day, 3 p.m. here in the Mountain Time Zone. So it's a little late for coffee, just drinking water. Sometimes I'll have herbal tea. Of course, sometimes beer, but not today. For Michelle, it's the morning. And everyone says that they can hear me, which is great. David, what's up? Thanks, especially to David for being a moderator. Bradbury, what's happening? And just past 10 o'clock for Gaz. Okay. So we'll hop over immediately. So we're just doing some Q&A today. So if you have questions, you can let me know. There's a couple things I could talk about. Part of this is just me telling stories, filling time. But I will. So I'm going to go through some stuff here from John. John got here early. And if people have ideas, you can let John know. So I'm going to post what he said, kind of read it out. John says his specialty, I guess the niche, is the backyard. And I search for propane fire pits, and you got some victories. Great. And John is also having trouble finding low competition keywords that are fun despite a couple first page and snippet trumps for other terms I'm not wanting. Or maybe the audience can assist. So home fun, what items are people purchasing for outdoor fun or indoor fun for adults? That can get into some racy topics, but we're open to that. So if anyone has indoor fun ideas for adults, maybe you could put them in the chat. And I could think of some adult toys already, but maybe people have other suggestions. Also families or pets, but not adult fun for families, just regular fun for families, and especially regular fun for pets as well. So, and John mentions like beer pong or drinking games seem to be trendy. So if people have ideas for John, feel free to shout it out. In the chat, I mentioned to John, hey, I'm not doing the deep dive keyword research today. We're just answering questions and going through some stuff. It's a little more, we're just not doing it today. But the thing is, like I mentioned before, John, we've gone through the same method, and basically I do the same stuff over and over again. So if you just go back and watch those videos, which you were part of, generally I just do the same thing over and over, and it's a matter of potentially looking at some external sources, sometimes looking at the competition, looking at the SERPs, and just gathering information. You won't necessarily just come up with the answer. You won't come up with the perfect keyword. You'll probably look in several different places, and then you'll come up, hopefully, with some ideas. You may be able to go to areas where discussion is happening, like Facebook groups or forums or even private communities, but I think you'll probably get plenty of ideas from forums and such, and you probably can get some other ideas. That's my guess. So that is the way that I would approach it. And like I said, I mean, we're not doing the deep dive keyword research today, but the point with those, whenever I do them, especially live, is not to give people keywords, because that is a unscalable thing. It's not very exciting for the people watching, unless their keywords are, or unless the keywords are for them. And then, for me, just doing keyword research for other people isn't very helpful for me personally. It's not exciting, right? But what you get to see is the thought process behind it, which hopefully is far more helpful than me giving you keywords, right? Because if I just give you keywords and you come back and you're like, hey, I need more keywords. But instead, I'm showing you, hey, here's how you do it. Here's the thought process. Here's where I hit a dead end and we have to go to a different spot. So that hopefully should be helpful. And if people have ideas, guys, and Jaren's on. What's going on, Jaren? Good to see you. Guys, thought of Naked Twister. Awesome. And PMS, I don't know what that is. And Bradbury said it could get a bit weird. Okay, and Guys has actual suggestions. Climbing frames or garden assault courses for kids. I don't even know. Climbing frame. Okay, so we'll assume those are good suggestions. I'm not sure. Garden assault courses. I don't know what that is. All right, before we get into it, I do need to give a shout out to Ezoic and their Leap product. It'll help your site load faster and get green in the core web vitals, and it's actually a free product if you're monetizing with Ezoic. And the good news is Ezoic doesn't have any page view minimums these days. So even if you have a brand new site, you can go ahead and get started using Ezoic and integrate a lot of the helpful tools, which is great. In fact, I interviewed, it was Amelia a few weeks back, and she mentioned something about monetizing early, even before you're getting much traffic, even if it means you're earning 0 to just pennies a day, because you understand what the highest value pages are. You get to see what the EPMVs are, the earnings per 1,000 visitors, as the site grows. So you can make sure you're publishing content that can earn more. At least you are conscious about where you're spending your time on content, where you're spending your resources on content, so that you're not building a bunch of content that is not going to earn as much as some other content. So at least you have that knowledge. So shout out to Ezoic, and also ODYS, that's ODYS, and you can get you can get age domains there. We'll take a quick look, but they do sponsor the show here, so much appreciated. Guys also mentions to John, soft archery for kids. So a few ideas. And Marcel, I didn't want to say teach a man to fish, but yeah, teach a man to fish is exactly what the point I was trying to make there. Okay. Guys says, are we having some UK, US English problems? Yes, that is precisely it. Kids climb and swing on them in play parks. So you called it an assault course, a garden assault course. we call them, I guess it's like playground equipment. Yeah, swings. Um, yeah, there is a specific name for that, but I don't. It's escaping me right now. Someone will think of it though. Someone will think of it. All right. Oh, Ariel's on. Good to see you. It says it's off topic, but am I coming for the affiliate gathering? No, you know what? I haven't, I was not aware of the affiliate gathering until I saw a bunch of people just publishing, and I wasn't invited. I don't know much about it other than what I've seen, just a couple videos and headlines here and there. So no, I'm not going to the affiliate gathering. And to be honest, I mean, I know some few hundred people will watch this. Uh, I was my feelings were hurt a little bit that no one told me about it. I had to find out from other people. And then, I never heard anything about it. So it looks like there'll be a lot of folks there. Looks kind of cool. And I've talked on my podcast a lot recently about in-person gatherings, and here in the US, well, and it depends on where you live, but things have been rather open in some areas, and I've been going to conferences and meeting people and doing stuff, and it's been amazing to hang out with people in person. And I don't even like the talks and stuff, just sitting in an auditorium listening to people talk. I usually skip those, to be honest. Most of the time, depending on the conference, it may be an integral part. But in general, all the fun is happening away from the talks, after hours potentially, and in the hotel lobbies, in the lobby of the, auditorium hall or the conference center or whatever. So go to in-person things. It's really fun. Really fun. Oh yeah, got it. Okay. David says those are called jungle gyms. Thank you. Yeah, I just could not think of it. Yeah, jungle gym, little playground set, a swing set, and a slide, and other stuff like that. So, all right, cool. And it's Med. I accidentally skipped yours for some reason. Okay. First, thank you for the work. This is your first question on the channel. Okay, cool. Second, you found an age domain that has a history on the Wayback Machine. How to check if it has a bad history? Okay, great question. Ties into the ODYS sponsorship a little bit. First, you should do, other research. Don't listen to just the things that I'm saying now, but also find a guide, and it will tell you a few other places to look. The easiest way to check to see if there was like a spam history there, number one, spot check the Wayback Machine, right? So you go through, see if anything looks weird, see if the homepage changed to some spammy thing where they were advertising, herbal supplements for erectile dysfunction, right? Something unusual, especially if it's not related to what was on the site before. The other way is to go to Ahrefs or some backlink database, and then look at the anchor text of what was pointing to the site. Also look at the anchor text of the outbound links from the site. If you see spammy type links, that's a red flag. So that's the easiest way to check. There are other issues that might pop up, but you should check those for sure. And you can go to a marketplace like ODYS where they have premium domains and they've vetted a lot of stuff for you. You should always still double check, but usually, a good company like ODYS is going to, pre-vet a lot of that for you. So typically you're going to have higher quality there versus if you just go to like expired domain type directory, you may not find very good stuff because it's not vetted at all. All right. Let's keep on plowing through here. And okay. Hafiz says, how much time for an age domain to pass link juice to a money site using 301 redirects. So typically, I think it probably varies, right? It probably varies a little bit. But typically, doing a 301, I have seen the results in 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. Sometimes it takes a little time to ramp up or recover and that sort of thing. As far as link juice, like if you're not moving content in, actually, I'm not sure if that matters. So we'll just say 2 to 4 weeks is what I've seen using a 301 redirect. However, the use case that I'm thinking about is if you are moving to a new domain. And I've done a few different iterations, a few different combos of this, so I can't quite remember. All right. Cool. So it was just Thanksgiving here. Oh, and I see it must be, we have one. If you're watching, if you have the opportunity to give a thumbs up, that'd be great. If you're like, let's see, who was the person earlier? I'm just going to pick on him, right? Bruce. If Bruce, Bruce must have given me a thumbs down, and Bruce hasn't come back to tell us what he looks for. He says he doesn't like my bald head and pointy ears, but we don't know what he does like. I think maybe longer hair on a man. I'm not quite sure, but would love to hear. And I'm just going to keep hammering Bruce. I think he is probably gone. And it could be like, you never know if you're being trolled by like a 13-year-old kid or something like that. But it's fun. I assume that. Okay. Fitnesian says, question related to selling websites. If the website has a paid theme, does the buyer need to buy a license to the theme, or this can be transferred somehow? It depends on the theme, but typically one can assume that the buyer will need to buy a license as well. So it does depend, but you can assume if there's a subscription, the new owner is going to have to pick that up. If it's a premium theme that was a one-time payment, sometimes there's only a certain number of licenses based on whatever the seller had. So maybe they have 5 licenses and they want to reclaim one of them. They may take their license off of the site, and you would have to get a new license for your new site as the buyer. So keep that in mind. Like anything, this is negotiable. So if you are buying and you are thinking, hey, I want to get 5 years of the ongoing license for a theme, then you could just ask. You could say, hey, I want 5 years of the license. So they may tell you to, just pay for it yourself, but it is something you could bring to the table. All right. Gaz says, what would you do with an age domain's backlinks to articles? If you delete the articles, the backlinks won't point to anything. Do you rewrite the articles, keeping the backlinks? The best practice is to rewrite the articles or recreate the URL in some way, and hopefully, have relevant content so that the link still points to something relevant. That way, you have the link juice on that specific URL, and then you can point to a different, or not point, but link internally from that post. So that's the best practice. Now, you wouldn't want to just copy the old content from the Wayback machine and put it on the site. That technically would be a copyright issue that you could potentially run into if the previous owner or whoever owned the copyright for that content came back and said, hey, you don't own that. You have to remove it, and you can get into some legal issues. I've never actually heard of that happening, but just from an ethical standpoint, that is something you would want to keep in mind. All right. Del Kabar says, I don't know if you've done this before, but I'd like to see an Amazon affiliate blog journey from you like Alex does in his channel. It'll be great to share your experience and practice. It is a common request, probably once a month on the live stream, maybe twice a month on the live stream. I get this request, and I would suggest just watch Alex. There's other people that do it. I think our other friend Morton does this. Some people have a case study that they do, but they keep it private and they don't share the domain. But overall, I haven't gotten into that. And occasionally I debate whether I should do it or not. It is, people do like to follow along with a case study like that, but I just haven't done it. Overall, I think the cost benefit and level of effort that would be required doesn't match up for me. And the other part is, if I actually, every time I think about it, I'm like, should I do that? So the other part is, I don't push affiliate stuff as much as typically the people that are doing the public case studies. So either with hosting or themes or tools or other things like that. And as a result, if I did it, it would kind of just be me paying for a site to be built, where potentially I can get hit with negative SEO or run into issues or copycats or stuff like that. So that would potentially be frustrating. At the same time, I have thought about pulling together sponsors and just say, hey, I'm doing a case study. I'll do a video per week. You give me all the content for free. You guys do all the link building for free. And then we'll see how it goes. And then I don't actually have to like pay for a whole site to be built, and potentially other people just copy it. So people do like to see a real life site and a real life case study like that. They love it. I mean, that was some of the early stuff that I followed along with, and it was really helpful to see how things were done. But a lot of times, if you just copy that process and what you see externally, it may or may not work out. So it's always tough. It does give us maybe a little more confidence to get started, but at the same time, it's really about taking action and iterating and adjusting as you need to go. So that very long way for me to say, I'm probably not going to do a case study like that. Oh, another person to check out, Niche Pursuits, Spencer Hawes. He pretty much like every 2 years or so, he'll do a public case study, so you could follow along just from the beginning. Find all the posts out there. All right. John says, I know many authority sites structure their own affiliate deals. Can you talk about how that is done? Are there contracts? Is it typically a lot more than their public affiliate program? John, good question. All right. There's no set way that people do this, right? There's probably not an infinite number. There's probably dozens of different ways that you can do this. And typically, I would say the best way to do it is to contact someone at the company directly. It is very helpful if you have proven sales data. For example, if you had a report from Amazon showing that you do sell those products, especially historically over time, if you're able to show over the last 6 or 12 or 18 months that you've been selling plenty of these products, that is really helpful. Additionally, if you're able to show that you rank and pull in traffic for relevant terms, that would also be helpful. You're proving that you have an audience that converts into sales. As far as structuring it, it is all up for negotiation. There's no set like amount. There's no set commission rate. It just depends. Now, one thing that can be helpful is if you see that the company is running ads on any platform. It could be Google ads, could be Facebook, Instagram, whatever. If they're running ads anywhere, you know they have a marketing budget and they're trying to get in front of an audience. If you have an audience that is very well targeted organically, that's great. You can use that information to help you. Now, you don't know how much they're spending or anything like that, but you can get somewhat of an idea based on maybe how much it costs to run ads for those keywords. So it can give you an idea, but it's not going to be exact or anything. As far as contracts, yes, there probably should be contracts. However, for me, I would say if you're probably not going to sue them, you probably don't necessarily, I'm not a lawyer, get your own legal advice, but you probably don't need to have a very rigorous kind of contract. You could probably have some written agreements where they electronically sign the documents and you have a working agreement that you're on. But the reality is probably I mean, early on, most of the time it's probably not going to be worth it to try to go to court. Hopefully, if there's any issues, you end the relationship before it gets to be some insane amount of money. Now, if you have a lot of traffic, it's an expensive good. If it's a lot of money, then yeah, you probably want to have a little bit more of a rigorous type contract. And if it is a somewhat larger company, they'll have a legal department. They will want the contract too. And at that point, you may need to read over it very carefully, make sure you understand and ask questions and have the contract adjusted if you want, and potentially even hire a lawyer of your own to go through it to represent you and have your best interest in mind. As far as the amount and the commission rate compared to the public affiliate program, it just depends. It there's no set way. I have heard, sometimes it could be double, but at that point it may just be like 12%, right? So it may or may not be like a huge commission rate, but it could be a lot more than the public affiliate program. And it just depends on the company in general and how strong of a position you have. So again, if you have the leverage with data, then you have a very strong negotiation position. And that is really what makes the difference. All right. Chill says, thanks for doing these. What's the longest it's taken one of your sites to leave the sandbox? About a year. About a year. How about you? Excuse me. Ahrefs says, should we use a domain forwarding option or a redirection plugin? That's a technical question that you can do any way you want. I typically use I just use the htaccess file and do it by hand. But a forwarding option could work depending on your implementation. I got a cough. My voice is finally back to normal, but good grief. I just need to get closer to the mic. I don't have to talk so loud. 24/7 says that's a good point. When you register an expired domain, you gain ownership to the domain, but not the previous content. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Oh, about the copyright stuff. Okay. Ahrefs says, I know I'm saying your name wrong. Sorry. My website is a year old and you published 100 articles, but Google shows 57 only. What should I do? All right. I just recorded a podcast where someone asked a similar question. I would check on the Google Search Console, and then you'll probably see something like discovered but not indexed. That is kind of typical. So the person that actually emailed me, I think their percentage was even lower. So basically, you can keep publishing content. Hopefully, this will speed up over time. I actually did some research on this in a rare move. I prepared for a podcast. It's called The Doug Show, by the way. If you don't listen to it, there's a link in the show notes and description here. I guess it's just the description here on YouTube. But John Miller, or Mueller, however you say it, could be Miller, he mentioned that Google's just not sure if it's worthy of being indexed. So this is something that was happening in the past where people would see content indexed and then it would not be indexed and then it would be indexed and get traffic and then go off the index. And we just didn't know what was going on. Now it says discovered, not indexed. So people are often worried, and I assume that's probably what you see. Ahrefs, maybe that's closer. And you can try to manually index them, right? Tell Google to reindex that page and to check it out, recrawl that page, but they may or may not do anything with it. And you may see it vary, right? Some URLs may pop on, others may pop off, and they can kind of go back and forth. And Miller said this in like some tweets or maybe one of his live streams where he answers questions. But basically, Google's just not sure. So you could publish more content. I would encourage you to get backlinks and help your site be more authoritative. The other thing he cautions is if your content is really just a regurgitation of other information online, it may or may not be as worthy to be indexed. And I think he actually did use that phrasing. So anyway, the point is keep publishing stuff. Make sure your content is high quality and good. And I did have some issues with, the site I mentioned before, where it took about a year to get out of the sandbox. I have been going back through the content and improving it and adding more FAQs, and that seems to have helped everything. It helped everything out. So content is indexed faster. When I publish it, usually it ranks faster as well. Inner Goof says, love your content. Came here from Affiliate Marketing Dude. Awesome. I'm not even sure who that is. Oh, Michael's on. What's going on? All right. Fitnesian says, what do I think about new websites that are not monetized yet? Don't have much traffic, probably still in the sandbox, but has some content. Let's say the website looks professional and the price for the website is cheap considering the amount of post. Is it worth it to buy? Are people buying such websites? So in general, what do I think about it? Let's see. People buy all sorts of shit. All right. So yeah, there's probably people buying it out there. For me, just personally, or if I was giving advice to someone, unless whoever is selling it has like a good selling position, like me, right? If I had a site and I was like, I worked on it for a little while, but now I want to get rid of it, I could probably sell it because I have an audience and people trust me because I do live streams like this and I've been around for a little while. So I could probably sell it. But if it's some random dude who has built a site, they're like, you know what? It's still in the sandbox. There's not much traffic. It'll probably just take a little while. I would not put much value on that at all. So if someone came to me and said, I'm interested in buying a site, this person says there's 100 posts, it's still in the sandbox, there's a lot of content, there's not much traffic, I would say, you should probably buy a site that already has some traffic that is not in the sandbox. Like if you're going to buy an existing site, you may as well go that route. Some people might find it valuable, but those people would probably be experienced. And if they're experienced, they probably would buy a site from somewhere else or build it from scratch. And I think I got the context of what you were asking. Derek's on, what's going on? And Adam is too. Watch News says what to cover in your money or your life niche for the About Us page, what rules to follow in EAT, expertise, authority, and trust in the About Us if the owner is not an expert. That's a tough one overall, and I don't have a canned answer for it. However, what you can do is go read the full document that Google put out around that topic specifically, your money or your life and the EAT. There was a whole set of guidelines. Someone may have the name. I can't remember what they named it, but basically they wrote like a whole document for like a manual Google reviewer to go look through a site. So you could use that as your guide. I don't remember the rules. And generally I would say, hey, why don't you not approach your money or your life if you're not an expert? Because it's just going to be kind of an uphill battle. Or, the other thing you can do, I don't know if this works as well, but my hunch is if you interviewed a lot of people, maybe through text interviews in that niche, in that whole topic area, if you had people that you featured on the site that are experts, then you could put on the About page, we feature these experts in this specific niche. I think that would be fine. Now, this brings the question, well, we could write any shit we want, right? So you could just make stuff up, and I'm just speculating here. This is all unchecked, just talking through it. But we could write whatever we want. Do we think that the Google algorithm is actually checking what's on the About page for expertise and authority and trust when we could just write whatever we want? Or are they actually looking, is the algorithm looking for links from authoritative sources? Well, I don't know the answer to either one of those, but I would pose the question to you, which do you think is more likely? All right, Mavid says, does Google sometimes rank your page on the top 10 to test it and then slowly ranking it up all over again? Yeah, I think so. I think the A/B test and check it out. And like sometimes when you first publish something, you'll get a handful of impressions very high up and then it'll drop back down. And Thane does remind us to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hop on one leg. Yeah, we should have a few more likes on here, and that would be good. Okay, and Michael says, regarding Fitnician's question, people are buying them. You're one of those people. So Michael, tell us more. Did you buy it from an individual or from like a marketplace which you trust, or they've built up, your trust and you think they know what they're doing? Asif says, is the video going to be on the channel? Yeah, I leave all the live streams up. All right. And someone mentioned the affiliate market. Oh, thanks everyone for hitting the thumbs up. I see it going up by a huge number. Affiliate marketing dude is Marcus. He has a different approach and is showing immediate rankings of new websites and content. Cool. Derek says, what besides Amazon do you see good results with monetization? Yeah, check out Ezoic. They are a sponsor, so I am biased. But yeah, check out Ezoic. That's what I would recommend. I can tell you also, Derek, that Christy, my student, uses Mediavine, and she likes Mediavine very much, even though I tried to get her to sign up for Ezoic because the information that I have shows that generally Ezoic pays more and they have better software behind their system. However, again, I'm biased. They sponsor me. But either one of those are totally fine. You should definitely try out one of them. So there's no reason not to earn money from ads. All right. John says, first page on a post reached second site from top. It's not even a decent post. I used internet information, but rewrote it completely. DA is 6 to 8 all in 1 month for my site. So you're on the first page in a post, reach second site from top. This is an awkward sentence, John. All right. So it sounds like you reached, like you ranked number 2. Is that what you're trying to say? Okay, I think you're saying you ranked number 2. All in 1 month. Great. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And the thing is, I do hear, I mean, I get these emails every week, several times a week. You know, someone's like, I've been working on a site, I'm doing this stuff, and I'm not getting any traffic. And maybe they're working on it for like 6 months. And typically you should get at least a little bit of traffic, or at least see some number of impressions so that you're getting like some positive information, a good feedback loop there. All right, and I see Adam ask a question here, so I'm going to hop to that in a second. I do have to give a shout out to ODYS. So we're taking a look at their marketplace, and they still have their Black Friday deal going on. It ends in 4 days, 8 hours and 11 minutes, apparently. It's 50% cash back on all domains. Some people have been asking about the age domains and expired domains, and it's definitely a hot topic these days. But the good part is you can filter on many different things. So let's say you want to make sure it's an English site. Let's see if they have, I don't typically tell people go into the gambling or betting niche, but let's see if they have any gambling or betting niches. Yes, they do. So there's Poker Coach. There is a casino. There's actually several here. Surprising. State of the Texans, world results. So there's several here. Some quite expensive, like this Poker Coach, almost $13K, 12.6. But anyway, you could filter on, whatever you want. So here's Vegas Freedom, a little more economic. You'll find some information here, including a logo. They give you the logo that you can use. It's included with the price. And they give you a heads up on some of the backlinks. Like this specific site has links from CNN, EW.com, which is that Entertainment Weekly, sportsbusinessdaily.com, publicradio.org, among many others. Is 21 years old. So you can find pretty awesome domains like this one. And don't forget, during this Black Friday deal, you get 50% cash back. So, for this one, you'd get, what is that, $1,905 back into your account. If you join using my affiliate link, you would get $100 into your account. And they have 20% extra content for websites if you get the domain, and then have niche website builders build the site here, which I used to work with them. They used to sponsor these shows as well. So you get more content for the same price. So technically, you could buy one of these domains, and then you'd be able to just hook everything up, like get content written, and you get all this stuff. They kind of build it all together here. So pretty cool deal. And thanks to ODYS for sponsoring. I do appreciate it. Thanks to the people that have been liking the video. All right, so we have Adam. Adam says, when starting a new blog from scratch, if I am seeding it with topic clusters of 15 to 20 laser focused articles in the same niche, how important is tags, categories, tags, and page layout? So I don't think tags are so important. The categories could be helpful, but a lot of times, and you may have to scrub through the archive of my podcast, but there's a lot of suggestions of creating custom category pages. So maybe you create a specific page that is / mirrorless camera, and then you have an intro there, and then you link to all the content that is in that category. You potentially can do that programmatically, but at that point, you could redirect the /category /mirrorless cameras to /mirrorless cameras. So you control the specifics there a little bit. You can do this with some of the SEO plugins. You don't have to check the documentation, but you can strip out that category slug. Then you could write sort of the custom intro or whatever you wanted. But from a simplicity standpoint, just doing the category page, custom category page, is quite helpful. As far as the page layout, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter about the topic clusters or the way you're approaching keyword research. Like, the page layout should be agnostic to the content. So if you want to elaborate on that, feel free, but the page layout shouldn't matter. That should be a usability situation. Michael says, regarding sites that aren't receiving traffic or haven't left the sandbox, these are more often than not that I will cannibalize for their content. For that reason alone, they can be highly valuable and provide a significant discount on the content when the website's value is being calculated on its earnings, not the content. Yeah, good point, Michael. So it would be sort of a strategic purchase. So for example, if I did have a site on vlogging cameras and I had a section on mirrorless cameras, but then I saw someone else had a site on just DSLRs that did have a mirror, then maybe I buy that site based on the earnings, and that's a huge discount. Now, the point you're bringing up is perfect, Michael. The problem is, a lot of times people, if they just built a site and they're still in the sandbox and they think they've built something that's worth however much they've invested, they may try to sell it for whatever they've invested into the site, which is kind of the wrong way to look at it. Well, it depends, right? Everyone has a different perspective. All right. And John says it's cool that ODYS lets you visualize the backlink profile. Yes, that is pretty cool. And Nia says, KGR is not doing wonders like it used to. Is it the same for everybody? I think it's all over the place, right? Some people have always said the KGR never worked. And then other people will say, yeah, it's continued to work. It's working great. Blah, blah, blah. So it's all over the place, I would say, depending on, some people fuck it up. Some people, the content's bad, or sometimes it's a bad set of keywords, even if it does meet KGR. So, and Niaz, can you elaborate? So, did it work really well for you before, and then it's just not working for a particular site or something like that? All right. Kay says, what's one mistake you see new entrepreneurs make when they get into affiliate marketing? Nice. Generally, I'll give you a few mistakes. It'll be hard to narrow it to just to one. A lot of times people are in a hurry. So there is a lot of talk of like the sandbox and such and how to get out of it faster. Luckily we haven't hit that directly today, which is refreshing. There's a lot of the same ideas going on, but people are not in as much of a hurry, this fine audience that we have today. So people are just in a hurry. They're like, how can I start earning money faster? And I mean, everyone's impatient. I thought the same thing. Like when I'm doing stuff now, I'm a little bit more patient though. So when people get into a big hurry, they make different decisions than if they have a longer timeline. So if you stop thinking about things in such a short timeline, in months, if you think about things in years, right? So if you think 2 to 3 years, where do I want to be? The first few months don't matter as much, right? If you can get more traffic in the future, it's going to turn out okay. So people get into a big hurry and they make weird decisions because they're trying to earn money as quickly as possible. Again, I cannot blame anyone for that. But if you do have a longer time frame, you will be much more a longer time frame, you'll make better decisions, and hopefully you'll be less stressed out. Another mistake is expecting it to be easy or believing, actually, I'm going to just leave it at that. Some people think it's going to be a little bit easier than it actually is, and they think, actually, I'm going to color this exactly like how I thought. So at some point in time, I used to think I'm really smart. I have an engineering degree. I have like some technical background with software. I'm a project manager. I'm a PMP. I should be able to figure out this shit a little bit faster than other people. Turns out it's not true. And we individuals end up thinking that we're a little smarter than we are, or that we can shortcut it because we have a specific experience. Now, if you happen to be a writer, a content writer, or you've had a lot of websites before where you got traffic, you probably can shortcut some things. But even though I thought my experience would lend itself to help me do better faster, it didn't. I still had to do I had to make the mistakes. I had to go back to the beginning. I had to get Google penalties and then realize that I didn't want to put myself at that risk. So that's another pretty solid mistake, is we think we can come in, we're a little bit smarter, we're a little bit more agile. We think we can beat the curve, but we can't. You just have to go through it. And luckily, even though I am stubborn, I do realize that anytime I start something new, hopefully I'm building upon skills in a smart way so that I can take advantage of some of the experience I have and some of the mistakes that I've made in the past. So when I started the podcast, I knew that it was going to be tough, and I knew it was going to take a little bit longer. And when I started other shows, I knew it was not going to go even though I've done another podcast, a new podcast is not necessarily going to be successful, and it's not necessarily going to grow faster. So just remember those couple things. And final one is people sometimes don't iterate or adapt and pivot as they need to, and they will just stick in one path They will just keep trying to do the same thing that's not working harder. There's a balance, right? One of my books on the shelf that you can't see back there is The Dip by Seth Godin. And sometimes you should quit stuff, and sometimes you should keep pushing through the dip because you're really close to being successful. It's pretty hard to figure out if you should quit or if you should keep going forward. That's a skill all by itself. All right. Adam says, as a follow-up, if I have the 15 to 20 laser-focused articles in the same cluster, I won't have any other categories, right? And very limited pages and few tags. Is this typical and okay? It is definitely okay. I don't even like to have very many categories. I would say 4 max, in general. You don't want to have that many categories. You can kind of dump things, and some people may disagree and they say, I want to really categorize things tightly so that I could have these clusters in a specific way. But you could you could have subcategories, of course. So maybe you think of it that way. As far as limited pages, that's fine. Few tags, yeah, I don't even fucking use tags. Like you can if you have a reason to, but you wouldn't just use tags for no reason. Sometimes you're able to use a plugin in a certain way because you have tags and you're using tags in a smart way. But overall, it's fine. If you have a small number of categories and a small number of tags, that is totally cool. Phoenician says, great insights. Thanks to Michael, too. And it looks like occasionally when I click the chat, it displays the wrong message. All right. Oh, okay. Duke, what's up? Good to see you. Within the last 6 months, you posted 20 KGR compliant product reviews. Acme A3 review, all of them hit the top 10. That's great. Yeah. It's like if you're doing things right, if you have like the principles down, you should be in good shape. It's great to hear. Okay, and Michael says, it's hard to elaborate in the text, but Doug hit it perfectly. If you're new to the scene, it can be a valuable use of your time to keep an eye out there for sites in your genre. Yep. Yeah, totally. And Gaz says, the Sandbox separates serious, hardworking, and patient bloggers from the bloggers who aren't trying. And, interesting, when I started in 2013, you could start a site and do some spammy gray hat things, which, by the way, everyone was doing then. I've mentioned it several times, but I was like following Niche Pursuits, and Spencer was doing Niche Site Project 1. It was a survival knife site. And I think all the content's still published. So you could actually go back and follow along way back on his blog there. And basically, we're using private blog networks. I think some Web 2.0 blogs like blogger.com and wordpress.com, and building just terrible links. Terrible links. And you could publish some content that was okay, not even that great. You couldn't keyword stuff, but you could just buy links basically, and you'd be able to rank a site. You'd be able to rank a page in 6 to 8 weeks with a term that was getting, say, 4,000 to 8,000 searches per month. Big terms, right? Like best survival knife, right? You'd be able to rank it in 6 to 8 weeks. Number one, not just the top 10. You'd be able to rank it number one, and you'd potentially be able to earn, 5 to 10,000 per month within 2 to 3 months. Again, this was 2013. Of course, your potential to get penalized was higher, so you could, and this is exactly what happened to me. So it was rolling around this time of year, back in 2013. I think probably in November I made $2,000 or $3,000 from a site that I started in July. So if you could imagine that, right? Some people started sites in July here, or even, further back, and you're, waiting to get your first significant traffic. And back in those days, you can get traffic really quickly. You didn't have to build good links. You just had to get some links. Private blog networks were hot. It was a crazy time. And I even came in late. I mean, people were doing this for years, making so much money. This was back before Amazon cut the affiliate rates. So we were making like 8.5% based on volume from every category, 8.5%. So it was crazy. It was a crazy time. But now with the Sandbox, which I'm not 100% sure when the Sandbox became like very obvious and prevalent, it was just like, it's taking a little bit longer to rank. And basically now it potentially could take 6 months to a year. And you do have to be serious and patient and wait for it to work. Now, the good news is it does still work. And if you follow along with probably one of the longest case studies that I've documented is one of my students, Christy. So I interviewed her first in January of 2019. She started her site in October, November of 2018. And by the following January, like 3-4 months, she hit her first $100 month. She's currently making $6,000 to $7,000, and I was texting with her earlier today. I think she'll probably have a record month in November, and hopefully she'll also have a record month in December. We'll see how it goes, but there's a strong chance she'll have record months. And we've talked at least, it must be about 14 or 15 times. So you could actually go back when she first hit $100. She was very green, didn't know anything about affiliate marketing until she started the site, and she's been working on it for about 3 years at this point. So yeah, it's a good one to follow along. And I think I'm doing a good job documenting her journey, and hopefully we'll figure something out for next year. So I have enjoyed documenting it, and people email me all the time that say, well, they enjoy following along. So I should give a plug here for my podcast, The Doug Show, and Mile High Fi, Personal Finance and Financial Independence. And there's links in the description and stuff, but it's just the audio version of these things, really. Well, it's not Q&A, but I just talk. And Aaron says you're getting major youth pastor vibes from me. It's interesting. I'll take it as a compliment. Thanks. All right. Any other questions out there? Oh, I had some other random topics here. I was going to talk about Thanksgiving. I'd write a couple notes just in case questions don't come in, or if I just want to go on a tangent. Great questions today. Good group today. Sometimes people ask dumb questions, but I never got that feeling today. So good job to you all. The dumb questions are rough sometimes, but the thing is, it opened up. I wasn't sure because of Bruce, who said the pointy ear look isn't flattering, bro. And then we lost him. He never told us what he actually would prefer to see. I speculated, of course, but I don't know. God says that Christy is amazing. Okay, Thanksgiving. We stayed here in the Colorado area and went over to a friend's who had a Friendsgiving situation. And I think there were like maybe 10 people there or so. Food was great. It's someone who's been on the show before, but I didn't check if I could mention hanging out. But It was a great time. Just went over. I didn't overeat. Typically, I would have 2 to 3 plates of, turkey and stuffing. Someone made it was like a sweet potato hash. It was really good. Sweet potato hash, a lot of stuff. They actually, I should have complimented her more because she really chopped everything up fine. Even the sweet potato, just really fine. And it was so good. There was cornbread. It was, it was stuffing, cornbread stuffing. Let's say in the right order. Turkey was great. So many desserts. There were like 3 kind of pies. My wife made some cheesecake, and I did a good job. Tons of beer too. Really good beer, and I wish I stayed and drank a little bit more beer. But I had 1 plate of the meal, and then a lot of dessert and a lot of beer. So typically I would have had another couple plates of food, and then I would just be overstuffed. But I kept it under control and just had the 1 plate and tons of dessert. So the dessert was amazing. I can eat sweets all the time. All right, Aaron says, have I used keyword Cupid before for clustering and silos? The answer is no, but I have heard of keyword Cupid, but I don't know anything else besides that. All right. Yeah, if people have more questions, Michael says, we can just stoke the question fire, just ask. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here in a second, but if there are any last minute questions. All right, Derek says he's getting hungry. It's about dinner time there already, right? And I was going to say, we eat really early, so it's only 4:15 here, but we're probably going to eat. Oh yeah, I'm making other people hungry. Yeah, I love thinking about food, talking about it. I could watch. When I was sick, like a couple months ago, it was October. I watched several hours of cooking shows. I also watched some dumb movies, which was pretty enjoyable. I think I watched Kingpin, one of my favorites. And then I watched several, I think it was Chef's Table Barbecue on Netflix, which I love barbecue. And I mean, just cooking shows in general, I can watch for hours and hours. I really like Good Eats. And honestly, that style of show, I believe, is generally moved onto YouTube nowadays. It's a little tighter, often a little bit shorter. Sometimes they will stretch it out into longer stuff. But when I see the Food Network and some other channels these days, which is just at the gym, we don't have those channels. They have so many of the competition shows, which I don't like as much. I don't like the competition so much. I did watch Top Chef, maybe the first 2 or 3 seasons, but then I get tired of the nonsense of the competition. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna fucking switch all the ingredients, and you're gonna make this great thing, but now you can't use any knives or utensils. You just have to figure out how to, make a cake out of mud or something." It's nonsense. All right, Gaz is out of here. See you later. See a couple questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. Gaz, cool. And then Nomad says, happy to hear about the nice Thanksgiving. Yeah, I got some rest. And I'll answer this question from Aaron here. Aaron says, do you start all your new sites on expired domains? The answer is no. Have I ever had negative experiences with expired domains? Yes, but it was a while back. So I think you were here, Aaron, when I was talking about when I first got started. So around 2014, is that right? Okay, so I'll lay out the timeline for you. April of 2013, I started my first sites. Most didn't work out. Started the other one that did work out in July 2013. It hit several thousand per month by the end of the year in December. In January, it was penalized, and earnings went down to under $1,000 a month. Traffic plummeted, and then I was thinking I'm going to build some sites on expired domains. In fact, I thought, hey, I'm going to do a case study where I build some sites on expired domains and then some sites on fresh new domains. And I think I probably spent like $10K or so, 10 or 12K on this project. And I made the mistake, because we were so arrogant back then. I started the sites on completely irrelevant domains. So they had a good backlink profile, but it was completely unrelated, absolutely 100% unrelated. And I think one of them was actually like a magazine site. And then I tried to build like an outdoor site on a site, on a site that was a magazine for a local geography, for example. So completely unrelated. There wasn't even like a stretch. I couldn't even make up a reason why the new site was on this old domain. So I put a lot of content out there, and I was going to compare them. Turned out that all the sites got penalized. So this was when, like I said, a lot of us were using private blog networks. So I was using private blog networks, sharing links with some friends of mine. And this is a time where there were, quote, private blog networks, but really they were just big public link networks. And people were, selling links off of those. And there were, what was it called? I want to say Rank Hero, but it could be something different. So they basically, Google penalized one of my sites, and then within like 24 hours, like every other site on the Google Search Console, all of the other sites got penalized too. It was crazy. So has anything ever happened that was negative with expired domains? That was really negative. However, I did so many things wrong with it. I had some data, I had a few months of data, and the sites were just generally not ranking. So the cool part is, like I mentioned before, if you go to a marketplace like ODYS, those are sites that, you can filter based on what you're looking for. So, you have relevant links, but they've also vetted them, and typically they are not expired domains. They're just aged, and they were picked up from auction. So they haven't actually expired, which some people say comes into play. All right. And Derek says you need to do an episode on beer and pizza on the other podcast. Yeah. So one thing that I've talked about before, I think Derek, you were around. I talked about doing, I don't know if it would be a separate YouTube channel. Probably not. Gone down that route before, but basically where I would go travel around, and it would be like diners, drive-ins, and dives with Guy Fieri. It'd be like that, except I'd go to pizza and burger places and beer places, which typically they all go hand in hand. It would also be really fun to go with a friend. And I thought about this a little bit. So for example, I could go on a road trip with my friend Carl, who I do the other podcast with. And we could just go to cool places that we want to hang out, video some of it, talk to the brewer, talk to the chef, have the good food, and we're just traveling to places that we want to go. And basically it's like vacation. And you get to eat pizza and beer, which I love. All right. Cool. Oh, and a nomad overseas says, an interesting cooking channel is the Townsends. They use recipes from the 17 and 1800s, and it's actually very interesting. Yeah, that is pretty cool. And they probably have to, figure out, hey, what kind of molasses should we use for this kind of stuff? Oh, and Duke asked if it was Build My Rank. It wasn't. Build My Rank was actually ahead of my time. Oh, I gotta sneeze. I didn't sneeze. I almost tripped and fell, and I ended up coughing. So if you heard a little faint sneeze, that was just a cough. I have a big sneeze. I was actually gonna let it rip so you guys could hear it. All right. So Build My Rank was ahead, and I can't remember. It's irrelevant. But basically, if there's a place where everyone's buying links from, it's not a good thing. Like that, it's only a matter of time before it gets penalized. And I do wonder. It's been a long time since Google has sort of effectively taken down a network or a link building method or something like that, to my knowledge. One doesn't ring a bell anyway. But, back in those days, a network would go down and you would see chatter, just hundreds of people like, oh yeah, my traffic went to 0, or it's dropped to 10 visitors per day or something like that. All right, Aaron says, thanks for answering. Do I do the Q&As every week? Yeah, that's correct. Usually at this time. And I've gone back and forth. So if you look on the channel, I think there are hundreds of live streams. And at one point I used to do 2 per week. That was crazy. But I have trimmed it down to once per week. It seems like a good cadence. I was serious when I said this is a good group. Sometimes the questions are a little redundant. Sometimes they're bad questions where someone should just Google it. I know there's some value to hear all the nuances and stuff like that, but sometimes they're just bad questions. So I do occasionally I question, why am I doing these live streams? Rarely does it actually bring more subscribers. These don't have a good shelf life. Usually most of the views are within a week or so, and they will almost never bring in ongoing traffic or anything like that. So it's kind of, a bit of the community building stuff. And I commend Alex, WP Eagle. He has, I think he had almost 100 people on today when I popped over there. And yeah, he just has, he has a much bigger channel and a lot more viewers and stuff like that. So one would expect him to have a lot more people on his live streams, but he does a much better job, I think. And it's interesting. I hear fewer, maybe it's the kind of content, because often I notice some of the questions I get here are very technical. Sometimes Alex goes through more tutorial stuff, and maybe actually going back to one of the questions that someone asked here, Alex has his live case studies that he's been doing for a long time. So he can give updates on those, do a little work on his sites, and maybe that's more enjoyable than me just answering questions or talking about random shit. I don't know. He's more likable too. All right. And Derek says the traffic would skyrocket with that niche. The pizza and beer and burgers. That's just what I would want to eat. And then, like I said, I could travel around with a friend. It would be a lot of fun. And I have thought about that. And I'm going to go back to it's not a throwaway comment, but a nomad overseas says, I hope you got to rest and recharge the batteries during that time. And one thing I'll emphasize that I think if people listen, you probably got the subtext of this as time has gone on. I get emails pretty often that say, oh, you must be so busy, Doug. Your time's so valuable. You're amazing, Doug. Nah, it doesn't say all that, but people assume I'm very busy. I do have a high amount of output, especially if you look at the podcast that I put out. I have 2 shows, 2 per week for the Doug Show, 1 per week for Mile High Fi. We're going to be going to 2 per week in the new year. I do these live streams, put out some videos sometimes, and I'm not that busy. It's super intentional. I mean, I don't want to be busy and stressed out and have a lot of stuff going on. So, did I recharge much over the holiday? Not a ton, but I didn't need to. I was already, fully charged. I basically do a pretty good job getting rest, staying healthy. I have a lot of time blocked out on my calendar, and just in general, not that busy. And it's cool that I do have, a high amount of output, visually or externally, it appears that way. But when you work for yourself, you can pick what you work on. And I could stay busier, but I'm choosing not to. And you may have noticed if you're on my email list that I didn't send out any Black Friday deals. So unfortunately, some of my friends are probably sad that I didn't promote their stuff, but I didn't really feel like it. Number one. And, as a side note, not everyone, some people have promoted my things in the past, but there are some companies that are like, you know what, we're not going to promote your things, but we want you to promote ours. And I'm in a luxurious position where I've, again, built my schedule so that I don't have to work too much. I don't feel busy. I almost never feel busy. And I spend a lot of time walking outside or exercising or doing other things that I enjoy. And when I thought about putting together the Black Friday page or sending out the emails, I thought, well, I don't want to get any more of those emails. Holy shit, I got so many Black Friday deal emails. I'm still fucking getting them. It's Tuesday. Come on. So, I mean, if people need to buy the product and they got a deal, great. But I didn't want to get any more. And I felt like it would be nice to not bombard people with more things, more deals, more scarcity to make you feel like you have to buy the stuff. So overall, yeah, I'm not too busy. And Raul is an aggressive guy. He says, how many hours do you work a day? And you've asked like 8 times. So I'll come back to that in a second. And Duke mentions that Alex does a lot more over the shoulder content. 100% good observation. All right, Raul, I'm finally getting around to your question. And if people can see the chat, it's hilarious. Raul, you must be new to the channel. But as we're wrapping up, in 24/7, marketing says that you enjoy the laid back attitude. Thanks. It's much calmer that way. All right, so how many hours per day? I'm going to give you a different answer. I probably work about 15 to 20 hours per week, and I take a lot of time off. So this year, 2021, was a little bit different. I think I've probably only taken about a month or month and a half off, but in the preceding 3 years, I took about 3 months off per year. So quarter. And sometimes it was for specific reasons, sometimes vacation, sometimes moving. But some days I work a little bit longer than others. Like yesterday, I probably did 30 minutes, something like that. Last Friday, probably about an hour. I usually block off Mondays and Fridays to, a pretty big extent. And then a lot of the working days, I may work 5, 6 hours, something like that. Or actually, it's probably more like 3.5 to 6, something like that. And it's like I mean, as you could gather, it's very leisurely, and people could build, whatever they want. Some people like to work a little bit more, and one thing that I've seen is sometimes people reach some level and they keep pushing on the gas the same level that they have been, even though they could ease up. And I often do wonder, like, why are they pushing so hard? And I've asked some people. I met a new friend in Cincinnati, and she has a huge company, huge podcast, and I mean, I don't know, she probably makes millions per year. Super cool. And I was asking her, I was like, hey, you're financially independent. You don't need to do this. Like, you could just do your podcast, have fun doing that, and not push so hard. And I've run across a few people who gave the same answer, which is, I just want to see how big I can grow this thing. So they're enjoying, like, building the company and growing and marketing and getting out there. So I I don't want to do that. So I just have a lower interest in it, but some people like to do it, and that is fantastic. But it's easy because for a little while I felt like that I was missing out. Like, hey, I need to try and grow my business as large as possible. But we all have to figure out what our own goals are, and like what our game is that we're playing, and define those rules. And if you don't think about it ahead of time, you could end up in a spot where you're like working way harder than you need to, where you're busy all the time and you actually don't want to be, and you're stressed out and you don't want to be stressed out. So I have specifically sort of gone against the grain and, kind of assessing, I'm going to end up doing other stuff, other big projects, but I definitely needed some space to think about what I was trying to do. All right. Last couple questions here. All right, and I'll jump back to Raul. Raul says, I subscribed to your channel in June of 2021. All right, and Raul, the point is, I was going to say you sent your message 8 times in the chat, and I leisurely get to the question, so you never have to ask more than once. That's the point. And because I'm in a charitable mood today, I didn't kick you out from the chat, because sometimes, like, if people spam the chat, I just kick you out, ban you from the channel. But it's the holidays, I could just ignore you until I'm ready to answer. So, answered your question. Dennis says, do you hire writers? If yes, how do you find a good one? I usually go to Upwork, and the best way to find a good writer is to hire several writers and then keep the good ones. So if you want to find, say, 2 good writers, I would maybe hire 4 to 6 writers, give them a test job, let them write, and then you could keep the best ones. If you go to nichesiteproject.com, sign up for the email list, you can get all the templates that I do use, and you can also see a few blog posts. There is a particular good blog post that Christy wrote, and it's about hiring writers and building a team. I would check out that post. She goes through everything. Romy says, I'd really appreciate your answer. I find my niche too broad. Skincare for mature women. That seems so specific. That's great. But I can't figure out going narrower. I just draw a blank. What categories for different skin, or will categories for different skin issues be okay? Sure. I would actually say your niche is too narrow. So you're saying it's too broad. I'm saying it's too narrow. Why don't you cover... Here's the best way to look at it, because I don't know that niche. You should probably go to Amazon, and then you can look at what department that set of products is in, and then go up to that product. So maybe it's skincare in general, and then you would narrow it down from there. And skincare for mature women, I would Google it, see what kind of products are out there, see what keywords you can go after. LB says the sports niche. Does the sports niche have a good EPMV in general? The answer is I don't know. Don't know. I would go to the Ezoic blog and check out some of their content on EPMVs based on the niche. Evan says, is it bad to use a WordPress theme that displays an image at the top of every post? The answer is no, not necessarily. You heard that it can hurt SEO rankings by displaying an image at the top of the post. What do I think? I don't think that is the case. Just inherently displaying an image at the top will not hurt your rankings, and you could probably find some pretty good examples to prove that. Aaron says, I enjoy your podcast where you interview other site owners and get into tactical and technical topics that are actionable. You always come away with 10 things to implement. That's fantastic. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron says, how do you get around the hourly rate or milestones on Upwork, or do you pay them hourly instead of per word? So it's totally up to you. The good thing with Upwork or similar is you can pay by the project if you want to. So you could say, for every article, I'm going to pay you $30. Or you could pay them based on a per word basis, right? So maybe you would tell them, hey, I want 2,000 words and I'll pay you, $50 for every 2,000 words you write. And you could just tell them, hey, if you go over that, I'll make up the difference and pay you after the fact, right? After they've written it, so you know how many words extra they've written. And maybe you agree to that ahead of time. So you're the boss. You could pay hourly if you want to. And you could tell them, hey, like we'll do an hourly rate, and our assumption is you can write 1,000 words per hour or something like that. And then again, the good thing is you're the boss. You can negotiate the contract. You could set up the contract however you want. So you could even flip it upside down and say, hey, I'm going to pay you $300 a week, and I want you to write X number of articles that are generally around a certain length. And then again, you can have some flexibility. If they go over, you'll make up the difference. If they're under, then maybe you figure it out from there. But I would say having like a base rate, a base amount of content, and then telling them, hey, each week I'll make up the difference there. Oh, and people do have ideas. Dan mentions different skin types and different climates, and Duke mentions older women and beauty, and that is helpful for Romy. Awesome. All right, thanks everybody for joining me. Kind of a long one today. Like I said, pretty good questions. Everyone was chill, except for Bruce, old Bruce, who left immediately. And I think the way they've changed it is over on YouTube. There's a way to dislike, but it doesn't show you the quantity. So we just have one dislike, and I'm pretty sure it's Bruce, who didn't like the way I look. Which, fortunately, people are here for the content, not for my appearance. So it pretty much doesn't matter. Bruce, what's going on with you, buddy? All right, everybody have a good one out there. See you next week. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like, helps other people find it. Leave comments on all the other videos. That is helpful. And you know what? I published some really cool videos in the last week. Hop over to the channel. You'll see cool thumbnails, and you can just pick the one you like. There are shorter videos too, because I know people don't want to watch a full interview. So I'm doing shorter ones too, just shorter, quick videos.